Hello, everybody. Welcome to Room 37 podcast with Anthony Marr and Richard Vernon. Our guest tonight, Mr. Jamie Perrett.
Hi
How are you
everyone.
today?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. I'm feeling a little bit more human. I've been sick the last few days, but now feel, yeah, fully fit almost.
Oh, we're glad that you're here. And my co-host, Richard, how are you, man?
Good, Tony. Good to see you. Lovely to have Jamie along. Jamie and I go back a long, long way. I've known Jamie since he was a kid. I played with Jamie's dad, who's the famous Peter Perrett, and a genuine legend in indie music and music generally. So it's lovely to have Jamie along, and Jamie's material stands up on its own right, I have to say. So it's great to have him along, and looking forward to doing the interview.
Thank you. It's good to
Great.
be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. You're welcome anytime. Well, Richard, why don't we start?
Yeah, so we'll start with. So I know you've got a new single out, Jamie. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Age of Reason, it's going to be from my album. It's also going to be from an EP which I'm releasing in the early part of next year. So most likely the end of February, beginning of March. Um, and yeah, I kind of purposefully kind of released it at this time, I think, as well. I've had the sort of material ready since the beginning of this year. I've had everything mixed and just been waiting to release stuff when my other projects had kind of died down. And that I've been working on. And I guess with just the kind of things that were going on in the world at the moment, I thought Age of Reason was just quite sort of apt. And it kind of reflected a certain sort of disharmony and, you know, the kind of, I don't know, like the way people are at each other's throats at the moment. As a sort of reflection on that a little bit. Just
And
how
that's what the song is about.
kind of, yeah. It's like, everyone's insane. The world's gone insane. It's like, we were born to suffer. It's kind of, I guess it's a bit nihilistic, but kind of said with a bit of humor as well. And it's easy when you feel like the sort of world is falling apart to kind of wallow in the mire, but you've got to have a bit of kind of optimism, and that's why it's kind of the lyrics are hidden by this kind of like pretty kind of jolly melody, which is something I quite like doing as well. Which
Yeah,
kind
that works really, really well. So I hadn't planned to ask this, but I've got a theory about this myself. I wondered how you saw it. So that feeling where it does really feel like things are absolutely insane. I've never lived through a period like this before, and people do seem at each other's throats. Do you have any feeling as to why that might be?
I think social media doesn't help. I mean, I think it encourages a lot of. I think everyone feels that they're experts at things, at everything, and that they've got a voice. I mean, everyone does have a voice, but it's a platform gives a platform to everybody, and anyone can kind of remain pretty much anonymous, and abuse people, and it's this kind of like fast food culture that we have of fast food TV, fast food, internet, fast food, text mess, everything is just instant. We just, if we send a text message to someone, we don't get a reply back. We start kind of losing it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just breeding such kind of, I don't know. I think it's really affecting people's mental health. It's affected my mental health, definitely. Like the
Yeah, me
internet,
too. Me
uh,
too. I totally feel.
I hate using it. And I'm always on my phone. I think, uh, yeah, that's something I kind of, especially you notice it more when you've got a child. It's like, when they're kind of like, they're coming up to you and they're grabbing your phone off of you. It's like, oh God. It's just like, it's,
Yeah, totally. No, I get it. One of the things that struck me, I was talking to somebody recently, and I knew I was going to chat to them, and I was thinking, from what I've seen of this person online, I was thinking I don't like any of their views, any of their behaviour. But I thought, well, generally, when you meet people in real life, in any situation, you tend to find the things you have in common rather than your differences, and that's exactly what social media doesn't do. It doesn't allow you to find any ground in common, does it?
no, I think it is. I think people like to be outrageous, and you know, I think it encourages people to fight, and it's just if you see. I mean, now we're getting kind of ridiculous, kind of like if you look into sport, you're getting these ridiculous boxing matches where these are like what 70 or how old is Mike Tyson fighting against the YouTuber
Yeah,
or
like
something?
58 or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just insanity. Like watching this kind of stuff and people. I mean, I actually watched a bit of it, not live, but I fell into it.
Mm.
But I think it's kind of got to a point where everyone's scared to kind of to express an opinion as well.
Mm.
Especially, I'm terrified of actually writing anything on social media in case words come back to haunt me, and
Totally.
then I'm torn to shreds. It's kind of
Yeah,
I think that's one of
totally.
my biggest anxieties is on social media, people just kind of jumping on you and like
Mm.
ravaging you. Like it's kind of yeah, I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
scary world in that sense. And then if you
Yeah.
look at the kind of what's happening politically, it's I mean, it's I don't know. I can't really compare it to any other time. Like, but
Mm.
from what I've heard from my parents, at least, it wasn't as bad as this.
Mm.
From their generation, it's like it's like I say in the song, it feels like we're getting closer to some kind of judgment day. It's and it's just like, well, just kind of bury your head in the clouds and just enjoy every moment.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So that's the kind of subject matter for the song, and the music. The music is great. It's and it sounds very lively. It sounds incredibly well produced, but it also sounds very very lively and very vibey. How do you record it?
That was recorded. Yeah, it was recorded live. We went into a studio, 123 Studios in Peckham. Um, it's a great studio, but it's actually one of the few studios where, I think in London it's a good value for money, with good equipment and good space and affordable. For me, I mean, obviously, if I had the budget, I would record in. Well, I wouldn't, to be honest, but I have recorded in Conk, and Conk is a fantastic studio. Abbey Road, places like that are great. But you know, a studio like this was great for what we needed. And our drummer was going away for on tour. He was actually playing with a Machiba, or asked him to play with them, and we weren't sure if he was going to come back. So we wanted to get in the studio and record. Well, I wanted to go in and record as many songs as possible. So originally, I said to the band, the guys I play with, like, we'll do 6 songs, and then I just kept on throwing more at them. So it was like eventually it was like 10. I think we did in a day, and Age of Reason was the last song of the day. So it was I think it was the last half hour of the day, and it was a bit. I quite like that though because you can hear it, and it's a bit of like. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Yeah, Tony will tell me off later. Just be, yeah, blame me.
Yeah, it's a bit of an FU, to kind of like probably, we're like when you're tired and you're like, oh God, do I have to do another song? You just give it like one last kind of go, and we only had enough time for 2.5 takes. And to be honest, I maximum only do 4 to 6 takes of a song.
Mm.
As the way I like to work, and when I'm producing something, it's how I like to work as well. And I think that's helped it retain its sort of, I don't know, ramshackle kind of vibe, that kind of edge of the seat, kind of almost going to fall apart. And it suits the topic as well of the song.
Yeah, it does. No, it's a great record. So, influence wise, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say anything. Who are your earliest influences? As a musician, who are your influences?
I mean, okay, so when I first picked up a guitar, there was a friend of ours. I don't know if you ever met a guy called Lawrence Impey. Did you ever met a photographer called Lawrence Impey?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He had a daughter, and she played guitar.
Yeah.
And she came over and she gave us a Jimi Hendrix tape. That was the first time I heard guitar. I was like, wow, okay. This is what made me want to play guitar. And then I think the first time, and then I was listening to music. Obviously, I was listening to bad music. Wow. Well, I mean, that's bad, but like 90s kind of music.
Yeah.
And then I think I saw you guys. My dad was the one as a kid. And I think that was the first time, it was my first kind of gig.
Yeah.
And that was like, because the guy I had at home, who was my dad, was not like that,
Yeah.
So he was pretty kind of useless in lots of ways. But on stage, he was, it was quite. And so I thought, I guess that was a bit of an epiphany moment of wow, okay, someone can just be like this kind of statue almost, and then can go on stage and be kind of almost like a god.
I mean, what a description!
I think that was.
I do remember, but people, I mean, obviously fans of Peter will know. Peter's an absolute genius. He's a brilliant musician, lovely man. I do remember there was a time when Zena, Jamie's mother, went away and left Peter on his own, which was very rare. And I remember Peter microwaving salad, and I thought he was joking. Then I realized he was serious. And I hadn't gigged with your dad at that point. This was quite early days. So I remember thinking, well, how's he going to just manage on stage? But of course, on stage, he's an absolute master, isn't he? That's his environment, as opposed to the kitchen,
No, it was, interesting life, definitely. Especially with my dad. He's I mean, he can't. He's never cooked anything like I think.
No.
That's not his speciality. But I think seeing him perform, it definitely made me kind. I don't know. It's especially special because it's someone you knew and you saw every day in a kind of, and you just thought, well, that's your dad, right? And then you saw them all of a sudden transported to somewhere else. And then on stage, I think it was maybe it was the gig at the Underworld.
Oh, yeah, I remember that really well, yeah.
Yeah, the first Underworld gig where, the fans, it was his first gig in, I don't know how many years, 15 years maybe. And, everyone was going crazy. And I remember just thinking, wow, this is like, I'd kind of been into other things like football, and I played cricket for my school. So I was quite good at cricket. I was into chess. I really loved chess. And I love writing. Actually, was my parents thought I was going to be a writer before I got into music. But then there's something just kind of clicked, I think, with just the Hendrix, and then I think when I saw my dad singing, it made me think, okay, I can't want to be a front man, because I just saw, I don't know, the adoration, the way people kind of,
Mm.
you know, looked
Mm.
up at this person, and it wasn't my dad, it was someone else.
Mm-hmm.
No, because I didn't recognize him, but I knew it was him because he was wearing the same clothes and the same kind of unwashed hair.
So if you saw your dad in that different way, do you feel when you perform, are you a different person?
Yeah, I thought it's weird. Like, it's kind of gone through so many different changes. Like, when I was younger and I played in my first bands, I had more kind of arrogance of playing on live. Used to jump around more. Now I find it really exhausting, and it's not that physically. Like, I just feel it takes so much out of me emotionally, and um, I think it just kind of it's. I remember playing in Vadso. We did this festival in the Arctic.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, earlier this year, and it was alongside like people like Peter Buck, Lenny Kaye,
Mm.
Mark Bedford. There was quite a lot of really great musicians there, and they were part of our band that I played with my dad. And basically, I remember doing our set and coming off after the gig, and everyone was just like said to me like, "Wow, you were amazing," and it's quite difficult to explain because you kind of like, without sounding arrogant,
Mm.
it was part of me that was like, yeah, I kind of know.
Yeah,
And
of
it's
course.
because it didn't feel like it was me.
Yeah.
It felt like something I was just I'd kind of obviously learned to play guitar and practice to a certain level where I could move my fingers in a certain way. But it
Mm.
was something else that was a higher power, like or a spirit, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, not a
Yeah, I
higher
get it. I
power.
get it. Yeah.
But and that's why I
Yeah.
think what's special about music is something you're channeling. You're just a vessel, really.
Mm.
And I think you kind of search for those moments in music where you're connecting with something else, and then you're translating that. And I think what that gig was one of them that I felt I did.
Mm.
So when I play on stage, I feel like it's my kind of it's my most natural habitat, my
Yeah.
most comfortable place. Really, I feel like I don't want to leave the stage. I feel safest there.
Yeah, that's something lots of musicians have said that to me. Although a lot of people I've played with also get terrible nerves, and before they go on, they're like, "Why the hell do we do this?" But as soon as you're up there, all the nerves disappear, don't they? Which is kind of a strange thing. So, what influences on your life in general? I wondered about that. Apart from musical influences, who's influenced you on how you kind of live and behave, and how you see the world, how you live your life?
Definitely not my parents. It's always a thing of like, do whatever they didn't do, or if what they say you should do the opposite. But who's influenced me? There was a guy called Manny. Did you ever meet Manny? Yeah, Manny was like my surrogate father.
Okay.
Um, he was kind of like, he was really gentle and supportive and patient, and he always kind of gave me the time of day, and he was like the cricket captain of us. And John Perry from The Only Ones, he got me into this cricket team.
Mm.
And he was because John was umpiring, and that's how I met Manny. And he kind of took me under his wing as I was a kind of quite a broken 17-year-old that didn't really know how to fly, and he kind of took me under his wing and just kind of tried to give me the life skills, because I was very worldly in lots of ways, beyond my years, but also very sheltered in lots of ways, So worldly in like we were like the parents from well, from a very young age, we had kind of parental responsibilities, especially, during the kind of the deepest depths of addiction with my family and stuff. That was very, very tough. But then, when I went out into the world and I went to like the Brit School or someone like that to study, then I sort of met girls and I was like, fuck, who are these creatures? Like, I've never kind of spoken to girls before. It was terrifying. And, I had no idea of what to say to them. And I found the whole thing quite scary. So yeah, I'd say Manny was a big influence on me. My mum, since she's been off drugs, I think she's always been someone is quite optimistic and always positive and always like kind of encourages me to keep going in life generally. Um, my dad he's been kind of inspiring with music. I think the way he's very focused with music. I mean, maybe when you had a slightly different experience of him at times, but when I've worked with him or I've seen him work, I'm kind of blown away by how focused he is and determined and single-minded and how and I think that's pretty cool.
I actually had the same experience with your dad. I mean, I think in common with a few other people I've worked with, he takes music very, very seriously. And whenever we were in the studio, whenever it was to do with guitars in the studio, writing, playing, everything was perfect. It was away from that things were really chaotic and difficult. But whenever, I remember being in the studio with your dad and the other guys in the band was, it was very focused. It was very productive. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot off Peter. I mean, I think I became a totally different player under him. But funnily enough, Jamie, also to do with life, he really made me question a lot of conventional behavior. And I remember somebody asked what I thought was quite a kind of a cheeky, unkind question to your dad in an interview, and said, talked about your mum and dad's relationship. And your dad said, living a conventional life, having a conventional marriage is no guarantee of happiness, which I thought was a very gracious answer to a cheap little shot, And I think that's true in lots of ways. I believe it or not, your dad gave me great advice, and some things I copied, not all of it. Some things I copied, and I thought, that would be an interesting way to live. So no, I get that. So just quickly, there's a couple of questions I like asking people. They kind of go together. So I like asking, what's been your biggest mistake so far, and what's been your best decision so far?
Biggest mistake, having a baby. Best mistake, having a baby. Best decision, having a baby. No, I'm joking. Biggest mistake, best decision is having a child, definitely. I think it just provides a certain grounding to you that you've not, I don't know. It's like when I've been traveling before, and traveling is incredible. Like it gives you a lot of confidence. It really broadens your mind. It's, especially solo traveling. And I went traveling for 2 months before I became a father. Well, before my partner became pregnant. But as soon as a child arrives, it changes your life completely, and it's like you realize that there's something in the world that is much more important than you.
That's right, Jenny. That's it.
And it's kind of, it takes some getting used to it.
Doesn't it? Also, I think a funny thing I found was that myself and my friend Paul from Manbird, and you may feel the same thing, we were the most unlikely parents. If somebody just said to me, will you step up to be the safety net? I'll be like, no, I have to be your worst option. But it's actually something I really took to. I remember the same feeling when I became a parent. It was like a switch was flicked. And I thought, right from now on, I have to be the safety net. There's no choice. I have to do that. And you probably felt the same thing, I guess.
I think it's the biggest fear, and only reason I said the biggest mistake at the beginning was a joke, obviously. But it's. I think I'm always kind of scared I'm going to get it wrong, and I think, I think that's my biggest fear is just being a really bad father, and kind of making the same mistakes, that my parents made in some ways. Not obviously, I don't take drugs, but just kind of it's more of a behavior that it's you kind of you worry about of neglect or or you kind of just ignoring a child is and I think that's something maybe I can have a tendency to do because it's a way of self-preservation, and it's a way of protecting myself, of kind of being quite cold. But that's something I feel really guilty about, because obviously a child, has they don't know your backstory. It's like, you just.
I think the other thing is that everybody's don't beat yourself up, Jamie. Everybody's doing their best. I remember with Gwynfor, my son, who you know, I remember saying to Gwynfor once, "Look, I've never done this before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm green as well." Right. And I think it was quite comforting for him,
Yeah, I think going back to outside of the child stuff, I think the worst mistake, I think my probably worst characteristic or trait is being quite hot-headed. I think I'm overly emotional, and that's down to various things. But I think sometimes I should take a breather before I kind of act on things, and I think I can be my own worst enemy. And so biggest mistake is kind of not being a bit more tactful, and just a bit more, I don't know, taking a bit of time, patience. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one other thing I wanted to come back, we did an IG live just before this, and just touched on it. I wanted to ask you about being a musician now. I've got a view on this. Do you think it's harder to be a musician now than it was when your dad was trying to get his band going?
I think so. I think there's more people wanting to do music, and there's more means and more mediums, of kind of ways of getting music out. So I think when I was starting, when I was in a band with my brother called the Cuts, shall we call it? That was in the 90s, and like I remember at the time we were offered like record deals. I remember like we were going to Ireland Publishing, they wanted to sign us, and I was like 12 years old, and
wow.
My dad was like, you're too young, like I guess he was worried that we wouldn't be taken seriously, and obviously. But I felt, God, this is easy. At that point, I thought this is going to be easy. And then I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like I think the internet kicked in, and Napster came.
Yeah.
Then people started thinking they should just get everything for free.
Yeah.
And the industry just didn't know how to cope with it. And as a music fan, fuck, I like to get music for free. It was great. I could get some really rare things that I'd never been able to. I remember downloading, or my dad downloading, The Cure doing Another Girl, Another Planet in a sound check.
Okay.
And listening to that, I was like, well, you can't get that. It's not being released anywhere, but people were sharing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the industry suffered, and then with it, I think. Advances got smaller, and people were taking less risks. And now it's all about social media
Yeah.
numbers. And
Yeah.
I've spoken to a couple of people in the industry, and said, "Oh, I love your music, but if you had like 50,000 followers or plays, then then we would do it."
You've had people say that to you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, well, I thought
You need
that's
to be a
kind of,
content creator, they're saying, basically.
yeah. It's like I kind of felt, well, isn't that's partly what you should be doing? But I guess that's an old-fashioned way of looking at it. And I think musicians have also got to accept it, what it is now, and then just get on with it. And I think, you just got to get on with it and embrace there is lots of ways of getting stuff out. But I find that personally quite scary because it's not something I can write songs, I can play guitar, I can produce records, I can sing. I find that's quite a natural thing for me. But to kind of sell myself it feels, I don't know. It's like you said about having a shower after like listening to Spotify. It's like, it feels like that. I always just feel, I don't know, like if I think of my heroes like Bob Dylan or, I can't imagine just doing it.
No, I remember
maybe
chatting to your
did it
dad
in
about
some
this once.
way, but...
Yeah, I remember chatting to your dad about this to do with T-shirts, and I remember we had a design of a T-shirt that we wanted, which was more than two colours or something.
Yeah.
And the guy who was working with us at the time said, "Oh, you can't have that because you'll lower the profits." And I remember Peter turned around and went, "Yeah, I feel like I'm in the rag trade. This is so tawdry." And that word tawdry, I mean, that's what it feels like, doesn't it? When I'm having to post stuff on Instagram, I'm thinking I really don't want to be doing this. You just want to be making the music. Yeah, no, I get it. So I'm just gonna bring Tony back in for a second. I think normally by now Tony's got a few things he wants to ask as well. You there, Tony?
I think he left. Maybe he's had enough.
Tony's gone. Yeah, he was there a second ago. Okay, maybe Tony's gone. So I'll ask you. So coming back to the music. So the music you've got out now. What's the plan? So what's the plan over the next kind of 6 months for you with the band?
The plan. So I've got another. So I'm releasing an EP basically in the first part of 2025. So that will come out in the end of February or the beginning of March. And before that will be a four or five track EP. Before that, I'll release a single in January, the end of January, and then another single mid-Feb. And that will make up the EP. So that will be 3 singles from the EP. And then I'll be going on tour with my dad through February and March, when I'll be supporting him. Probably, most likely, he's asked me to do it.
Great.
Just me and a guitar, and maybe play with my band for the London show. And then, depending on how things go, I'll release some more stuff and do some more touring, my own solo touring. There's potential of doing a tour in France in June. And I think that's what I would love to do more of. I love playing guitar, I love producing, of course, love working with my dad as well, but I feel I've got so much material that I just want to get out, and I also feel I've got something to say, so it's like I kind of I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one because I think people obviously compare you, of if you're working with your father as well, they compare you to what you're doing with him or what he's done. And I'm trying not to think about that. I'm just trying to do my own thing, really. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that would be a problem if the stuff wasn't good, Jamie. But your material is really good. It stands up in its own right. So
Thank you.
obviously you're aware of that, but I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep doing your best work, which you're doing. And the stuff sounds great. I've really enjoyed listening to it. So where can people find out more information if they want to follow you on tour dates? Is that like Instagram, your website? Where do people go?
I think definitely I would recommend. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page. I'm on what used to be Twitter and is now X. I don't really use it that as much. YouTube, obviously, Spotify, all of the usual kind of Bandcamp. So you can find all of the links on my website. That's the best place to go.
Okay.
So,
and what's the website? What's the website name?
jamieperrett.com.
Cool.
So if you go to jamieperrett.com, you can follow me there. And then also you can sign up to my mailing list, which is probably the best thing, because then you'll hear about, any kind of gigs or releases firsthand before anyone else. Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. So I think I'll just check one more time if Tony's still around. Tony, are you there?
Jamie, yeah, I apologize. Jamie, what are some of the bands, like post-punk bands that have some influence in your music, and what are some of the bands that you're currently listening to?
Currently listening to, I mean, there's so many. Like I've obviously become friends with like Fontaine's DC. I mean, this is obviously more of a modern kind of post-punk band. But I've become friends with Carlos, so that's a band I've listened to and seen live quite a lot recently. But obviously back in the day, the Clash, Sex Pistols, I mean, The Cure, all of that kind of, the Smiths. I'm not sure you would call them post-punk, but it's post-punk era.
Right.
Yeah, I would say those kind of bands I always kind of would listen to.
What about Johnny Thunders? Do you go back and listen, watch some of those footage from back in the day?
Yeah, Johnny. I mean, I was lucky enough to have met Johnny when I was a kid. He was coming around the house, and he was always quite trying to. He was a positive influence at this time, and I always felt just came across as being such a lovely guy, and he's just unique, really. I think as a person, as a guitar player, as a singer, the thing about Johnny is as soon as you hear his voice or his playing, his tone, you just know it's him. And I think that's what you need. Like, there's so many players now that go to kind of music schools and they want to play like someone else, or it's becoming a session player, but it's like, I think the biggest thing you've got to try and be as a musician is trying to have a sound or be something that makes you unique. Find your superpower or the thing that makes you stand out. And Johnny had it in spades, and just listening to the So Alone record, it's, obviously it's something that my family's tied to and linked to, because my dad sung on it and played on it. Just a great person and great musician and player. Yeah. And it was someone that was really, really close to my dad. And I think my dad doesn't talk about it much, but he really struggled when Johnny passed.
Yes, it's unfortunate. I keep going back because we're making a documentary about it. A professional, and with Cleopatra, they did a movie that I really quite didn't like very much. Room 37.
Okay.
Thus, the podcast is called Room 37 because that's where Johnny passed away.
Yeah, New Orleans. in the
So
hotel. Is that right? Yeah.
yeah, so I always ask everybody, and a lot of guitar players, like you said, it's you can't recreate the way Johnny played, and he very very unique, you know, and his vocals, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan, and obviously of your father's as well, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast. It's really an honor, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I really it's nice to chat with you both, you know, and I hope to meet you in person.
Absolutely, man.
So you're based West Coast?
Yeah, but I travel a lot. I go a lot to Italy and Spain, so
Oh, cool.
it's close.
So
Close.
maybe come and see us in Spain. We're in tour.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we're in tour in so this is with my father, but I'll be playing there as well. I'll do my own solo thing. Um we're doing 3 shows in Spain. The end of I think it's the 29th of February. We'll be in you have to check the dates. I can send them to you. I think it's Valencia. Then we'll be playing on Barcelona and then Madrid on the 1st and 2nd of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Ma- Madrid, it's a lot. It would be easier for me, but absolutely,
Yeah.
it's an honor. Yes. Thank
But if you do get a chance, I think Madrid is a great one because the venue is a place called El Sol. I don't know if have you ever played there, Rich?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's a great, you know,
Yeah.
what's good about Spain is they love their rock and roll. They love
Mm.
great music and they've got good taste in Spain and they're just, you know, it's always a favorite place
Yeah.
to tour because they know how to party and, you know, I like audiences where they're not they give you something back.
Yeah.
But you know, but then you go play in places like Japan, and obviously you played in Japan,
Mm.
and they go crazy too. It's like, but yeah, sometimes they kind of don't go crazy until the song actually kind of finishes. It's like they're all kind of like really polite, and then obviously then it's yeah, you know,
Yeah,
but
Argentina, the crowds respond pretty well. A lot of bands love going to Argentina because of that.
yeah, in Argentina, I had the best time of my life. Really, um, it was so kind of spontaneous. You know, I was actually like on holiday in Colombia, like backpacking, like through the sort of jungle, and then I was kind of wondering where I was going to go next, and I sent a message to a person out there in Argentina because I was going to go to Mexico after Colombia, and then I sent a message to this girl out in Argentina and said, any chance of do you think of getting any gigs in Argentina? And then sort of like 20 minutes later, I got a text message saying, you've got your first gig in Buenos Aires.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, you know, like, okay, I've got to book a flight now. And then that turned into a tour. So but it was amazing because I ended up being on local TV. I was doing like did like 3 TV shows, and I was on radio every day doing radio interviews, and it was it felt great, you know, and it was but it was nice. It was just me and a guitar living inside the songs, you know. I think
Mm.
I think I love playing with a band. It's fantastic, and you know the power you get from playing with a band. But I think when you strip that away, you can't hide behind a band. So you've got to kind of sink or swim, and um, when you're playing your own songs and I think it gives you the opportunity to, like I said, you kind of connect with the songs in a completely different way, and you can actually help the audience connect with the songs in a completely different way as well. And I think it's just a lot more personal. So, you know, I think it gave me a lot of confidence doing that tour. And yeah, the audiences were fantastic, really lovely people. And they're quite similar to Italians because a big Italian heritage. So, you know, I thought, well, maybe I would learn Spanish by being in Argentina for 5 weeks, but I kind of it was quite confusing because they speak with a kind of an Italian accent. They, you know, speak Spanish with an Italian accent, and
Well,
luckily I kind of knew enough of my football, and they just won the World Cup, so we could talk about football all day.
yeah, I believe they admit to speaking Argentinian, which is not Spanish. They're
Yeah.
Argentinian. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
definitely, and I speak fluent Italian, so I know what they mean when they change things around. The words are, some of them are different, right? You can understand,
Yeah.
but
Did
yeah,
you have Italian heritage
no,
ancestry?
zero.
Oh wow.
My parents were diplomats, and I think I was 4 or 5 years old. My mother was a consul general, and then an ambassador, and we lived there for like for 15 years. So I did all my elementary and middle schools there, and then high school and college in America. But it was a good experience. I have a lot of friends there, and my sister remained there. They're married, and I go back every year. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, we got a lot of followers from Italy. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
That's amazing. I'd love to. I've never played in Italy actually. It's I've you know there's a lot of Italian musicians here in London. You know, and we get messages like saying, "Oh, when are you going to come on tour in Italy?" I was like, "Love to." You know, I guess it's hard to whenever anyone asks you, "Can you come and play in a place?" It's you know the logistics behind it is a bit more complicated.
absolutely. But you know, I know of some bookers, and if you, I'll write you an email and we can stay
Yeah.
in touch, because I
Yeah.
know of some clubs that do all the booking themselves. So
Cool. I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. Please do.
yeah,
Be great.
absolutely. Yeah, anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and this has been great fun.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I apologize for the one of my phones caught on fire.
What?
Well, it was smoking. Yeah, it was really bad. So I don't know what. Zoom is
Okay,
too
that's a good.
powerful. That you know, I think Apple does it on purpose. You know, they want you to buy the newer phones, and
It's planned obsolescence, isn't it? That's what
Yeah.
I call it. You know, I think everything has a lifespan because they don't want you just to, you know, have this phone that you don't never need to upgrade.
yeah, you know, things used to last a lot longer. Like the
Yeah.
refrigerators, now everything seems like it's made out of plastic, and you have to replace it after 3 years, right? So
It always conveniently breaks outside, just a couple of days outside the warranty or something.
yeah, I mean, it's incredible. But you know, they're not gonna get me. I'm gonna fix this. It's an iPhone 12. I'm gonna keep it until it blows up. I'm not gonna buy anything. I can
All
care less
right.
about
Lots of
artificial.
love to you, Rich, as well.
Nice
Great.
one, Jamie. It's been a real pleasure. Good luck with it all.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon.
You
Bye bye.
too.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Cool, Tony. Nice one.
Hey, thank you, man. I really had a bunch of problems. And I'm still having them.
Yeah, I did. I saw you say, "Can I ask a question?" I did go to you, but you'd gone then, so I just kind of carried on.
And
Oh,
the phone. I had to switch phones. Here it is. This is the phone that I was using. I don't know if you can see it, man. So it shit. Hold on. This